All right, here we are at the Ninth Man Podcast, simply named because you'll listen to everybody else long before you listen to any of us talk. But we're doing this because we love the NBA, we listen and we watch and we talk way too much NBA. And so I'm Luke Calvert.
I'm Alec Brown.
I'm Colton Cantrell.
And I'm Eric Kwiatkowski.
And we're just going to be doing a podcast talking about various things, all NBA, just our insights of what we think is going on, what's maybe a team's hot. We'll be considering if they can continue this streak, or we'll do some segments about worst of the week, or each week we'll have a new award that's granted at the end of the year. We'll be talking about that specific award. Maybe it's Rookie of the Year, maybe it's Sixth Man of the Year, maybe it's Coach of the Year, etc. So before we get started, it's obvious that we need to talk about our fan bias. It's obvious that all of us in this circle, Eric, Colt, Alec, myself, are big Pacer fans. And so we are going to do our best job to kind of put those to the wayside and be able to actually give an honest answer to some of the questions that we have. So the first question I have for you guys is what's the worst of the week? You know, the worst of the week, we kind of sit here and talk about the idea of like the Knicks basically won this award every week last year with all the craziness going on with Phil Jackson and Carmelo Anthony, and then Porzingis not showing up to his exit meeting, the whole thing. So we'll start with Eric. Man, what have you seen as the worst of the week? And we're going to stretch this out because it's the first podcast. Let's stretch this out over the full 2.5, 3 week NBA season we've had so far.
Yeah, I'd say for the worst of the week, honestly, I'm going to go with the continued drama for Paul George and the Pacers. I would say this is the worst of the week because you're getting Paul George just continually talking about the Pacers and how he's so much better off than without that. And then also you have all those Pacers fans that are being very bold in saying the Pacers very easily won the trade.
At Luke.
Yeah. So, I mean, Thaddeus Young even throwing in, we're not playing any one-on-one basketball anymore, so that's why we're better off.
Miles Turner as well.
Exactly, yeah. So you're getting a lot of drama there. I'd say that's probably the worst of the week for myself.
Yeah, I think before we go any farther, there's a question that has to be posed after Eric said that. Before we get to Alec or Colt with the worst of the week, we had to talk about this trade. Without further ado, you bring up the point that there have been some Pacers fans, maybe myself, I'm not quite sure, talking about we have a chance to actually win this trade. Domantas Sabonis.
What position you play for the Pacers this year?
Well, I'm the ninth man on the Pacers, and that's obvious.
McMillan might actually put you in the game with how poor coach he is.
Oh well, that's another hot take. But what do you guys think about this? The Paul George for Domantas Sabonis and Victor Oladipo trade. Vic averaging 23 points a game. Sabonis has, I think it's 7 double-doubles in the first 8 or 9 games. So what do you guys think?
I'd have to say, at first, I was extremely disappointed because I felt like we were talking about this for way too long, and we were trying to get better pieces, maybe draft picks, and then we end up, out of the blue, Victor Oladipo and Sabonis, and we're like, well, we kind of know what Vic can do. I mean, he averaged about 17 playing with Russell Westbrook, so, like, as the main guy, he could produce more, but Sabonis was still, like, a dark spot. What is he going to do on this team? Is he going to pan out? Yeah, because he was a lottery pick 2 years ago, and he's only 22. So, like, he could have had a bunch of potential, but I was still unsure. But I think it has panned out more. I like what Sabonis is doing. He plays great with the pick and roll, so I'm very pleased with that. So I think it's panned out so far. It's not as bad as what people thought it was.
Al, what would you say? Here comes the most,
I think it's very important
down to earth,
rational when analyzing a trade.
Yes.
The Pacers got rid of a superstar, at worst one of the 15 best players in the NBA. But he didn't want to be here, wasn't the best in the locker room, that's fine. Paul George can leave at the end of this year, and Oklahoma City won that trade because they make that trade, go get Carmelo, and it convinces Russell Westbrook to sign a 5-year extension. They kept Russ. No matter what happens with those two, they win the trade. The Pacers also get 2 lottery talents that it looks like they want to be here. Sabonis' dad was incredible, and so, he grew up under that tutelage, and his game is really kind of fit for today's NBA. Is he going to shoot 100% for the rest of the season like he was at the start? No. Is Oladipo going to score 26 points a game efficiently? No. But the Pacers got 2 young talents. They're not going to win a championship this year. That's fine. They got a good return. Both teams won the deal.
I would agree with that. Most people think it's either one team or the other winning the trade, but personally, I think both teams win it. I mean, the Pacers could have done kind of like the OKC route of with the Kevin Durant not getting anything in return. And I know as many Pacers fans, we were very upset that we didn't get any draft picks, but myself personally, I was actually I wasn't upset with that simply because a draft pick, that doesn't guarantee you a good player. Whereas I think Sabonis and Victor Oladipo, they're both lottery-type guys who have so much potential. I think Victor Oladipo is going to be an all-star here in Indiana, and this year, maybe the next. And then Sabonis, we've seen what he can do the first couple games. He's just so unselfish. He has a great shot, and he'll do anything for the team. So personally, I think both teams won it. Gives OKC the chance to potentially compete with the Warriors. I still don't think that'll happen, but I mean, it gives them the chance.
While on the subject of OKC, I'm going to go ahead and throw in my worst of the week. Going to the Oklahoma City-Portland game, and Russell Westbrook, league MVP, at the line with under a minute to go, down 4, and clangs all 3 free throws.
Yeah.
That's your league MVP. He said that he's struggling with the rule change. He can't go behind the three-point line on free throws, but your league MVP cannot go 0 for 3 from the free throw line. Guy was an 85% free throw shooter last year, and he's shooting like 54% this year. Can't have that in the game that Portland went on to win.
Yeah. My worst of the week kind of tags along with OKC, and an ex-OKC power forward or center, if you will, now playing for the New York Knicks, is Enes Kanter. I don't know if you guys saw on Twitter or through his Twitter at least. He has been banned from his country because he called them out on Twitter. They completely banned him from returning, and his parents actually live back home. And so I thought that was ridiculous, the fact that he called them out on Twitter, but not everybody has the freedom of speech, I guess, if you will. But yeah, just to close out on that Oladipo and Sabonis for Paul George trade, I think Kevin Pritchard hit it on the head when he talked about he was kind of frustrated with the frustrated fans saying we didn't get a single draft pick out of this, and his kind of rebuttal to that is, you're right, we didn't get one, we got 2. Because we got 2 established draft picks, lottery draft picks, if you will, and Oladipo was a second overall pick. I believe Sabonis was in the 13-14 range.
Shout out Lance Stevenson, better believe it.
Better believe it. And so we got 2 lottery picks, but instead of getting a guess, like you were kind of mentioning, Eric, of you can have a lottery pick and it just completely not pan out. We've seen that millions of times, but you know what you're getting with these 2 players. Sabonis is a hard-nosed, player. He rebounds. He started 67 games as a rookie. I mean,
exactly.
He's got experience. Oladipo, like Colt, you were mentioning, I believe it was 15 points he was averaging, not quite 17, but I think
it was probably Orlando.
Yeah,
But
Orlando.
Still, 15
that's right.
points a game with Russell Westbrook.
Right, and Orlando is probably even a better indication of what he was going to be, but he's obviously a more refined player now in his 3rd and 4th year. So, all right, kind of heading into the second questions of the podcast. Question number 2: what's the biggest surprise you guys have seen of the NBA season so far?
Kyrie Irving playing defense.
Really?
Brad Stevens is a wizard, and he's a great coach. Knew that Boston would be good this year. Personally, I still don't think they'll beat Cleveland. Cleveland will figure it out, turn it on. But Kyrie's such an incredible offensive talent, probably the best one-on-one player in the game, but has never showed any inclination whatsoever to play defense. Now leading the NBA in steals, and games in the 3rd quarter, they're leading by 18 points. He's sprinting around screens, running shooters off their spots, and doing things that he's never done before. And that was something that David Griffin said in the offseason. If with how quick his hands are and how quick his feet are. If you can get him to play defense, he can be a nightmare. And Brad Stevens has managed to make that happen, and you see it paying off for Boston on this 10-game winning streak.
Colt?
Individually, I mean, I knew this player was going to be good, but I think Porzingis has exceeded expectations because everyone booed him at the draft.
Does that have anything to do with
Tangus Pingus. Shout out Michael Rappaport.
Does that have anything to do with the exit of Carmelo Anthony, do you think?
I think it gives him more freedom. I think Carmelo held him back just a tad. Carmelo's still a great player.
His usage rate's gone from 24 to 35% this year, so he's definitely getting touches.
Yes. I mean, he's had how many 40-point games? He just had one earlier this week, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, he burned the Pacers.
Yeah, he
17 and 4.
And, so,
6 blocks.
I mean, I know
Blocks Zeller
the
3
Knicks.
in 4 seconds.
I know the Knicks are above 500 right now. I think they'll eventually
cool
off, but I'm surprised at how well he's played. Just him. So,
EK, what would you say is the biggest surprise of the NBA season so far?
I'd say the biggest surprise thus far, I'd go with OKC, honestly. I feel like they're being too unselfish.
Wow.
I think Russell Westbrook, personally, needs to be more aggressive. I don't know how many times he went to the line last year, but I think he's only getting to the line about 5 times this year. And how quick and just good of a player he is, I think those numbers have to increase. And if you look at their numbers, I was listening to Colin Cowherd. They're all getting the same amount of points with Carmelo, PG, and Russ. And I mean, PG and Carmelo especially, they went to OKC because they want to play with Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was obviously the MVP last year, and we all know what he can do. And I think them being too unselfish, honestly.
Wow. I would say the biggest surprise for me was I knew that Ben Simmons was a decent decent basketball player. I knew he was an unbelievable athlete. At LSU specifically, because we haven't obviously seen him get any run with the Sixers in his first year. I know they're calling this his rookie year technically. Same with Joel Embiid last year, but Ben Simmons having a triple-double in his fourth career basketball game in the NBA, that was absolutely shocking to me. I mean, it wasn't one of those 10, 11, and 12s either. You know, I think he had over 20 points. He was 12, 13 rebounds, and a couple assists. Right? And so that was really the biggest surprise for me off the get-go, was just seeing his dominance, really. And the thing is, he reminds me of Giannis in the fact that you say, well, Giannis can't shoot. Well, it doesn't matter. Giannis is just
still getting to the rim.
He's still getting to the rim whenever he wants, and people are giving him space. In fact, that's helping him because it's giving him a faster run to the bucket, an open run to the bucket, and then they have to contest him at the rim. You're seeing the same thing happen with Ben Simmons. Is that nobody's respecting his shot, but it's not messing with his stat lines. It's not messing with his efficiency because he's getting to the rim whenever he wants. He's assisting really well. He's rebounding really well. A 6'11" point guard will do that to you. Same with Giannis for last season. Kidd had him at the point guard position. But and Colt, for the third question, you mentioned this is just a little bit, but there's 3 Eastern Conference teams that's really been like, we talked about exceeding expectations. Yes. They've been mind blowing in terms of expectations, and those 3 teams are the Knicks, the Sixers, and the Pistons. Pistons are at 8-3.
You could even throw Orlando in there.
You could probably, yeah. I mean, with the emergence of Aaron Gordon, Vucevic is playing really well. But we'll stick with those.
Got Elfrid Payton back.
Yeah, Elfrid Payton's back off that hamstring issue. Out of those 3 teams, who's for real? If you could, I know you guys were 8 to 10 games in. You can't really give us a full answer. But who would you say out of those 3 teams, the Pistons, the Sixers, and the Knicks, are for real?
I'd probably have to say the Pistons.
Okay.
I'd go with the Pistons.
Because they're 8-3 record, or what's kind of stands out?
I think they're more deep. They have better players. Orlando, they're working with Vucevic, Aaron Gordon, and Evan Fournier.
Right.
Evan Fournier, he's actually been very well this year. But I don't think Aaron Gordon is going to be like a superstar by any means. But I think he'll be a great starting player. And I'd have to say that.
I'm going with the Pistons as well, and I'll make the comparison. My favorite team, the Houston Astros, just won the World Series, and 2 years ago they made the playoffs kind of a year early, won the wild card game against the Yankees, and then ended up getting beat by the Royals. Went on to win the World Series. Similar to the Pistons 2 years ago when they made the playoffs, played the Cavs tough, got swept, and it was kind of like they got there a little early. Like, should they have been in the playoffs?